I want to use the identities that we have to kind of prove a couple more. First of all, I already showed you how cosine of x minus y is cosine x cosine y plus sine x sine y. And in the notes for today, I proved that sine of x minus y is sine cosine minus cosine sine. Now, just to emphasize this a little bit, when we're dealing with cosine, if we're subtracting in the middle, then when we put those products together, we have the opposite sign. However, when we're dealing with sine, if we're subtracting in the middle there, then we also subtract their products. So pay attention to that as you're going through any of those difference identities. But I want to prove that sine of negative x is equal to negative sine of x. To do that, we're going to start with the left side, sine of negative x, and realize that negative x is just 0 degrees minus x. Then we can use that difference identity for sine, that being sine cosine, so sine of 0 cosine of x minus cosine sine, so cosine of 0 sine of x. Now for 0 degrees, sine of 0 is 0, so we'll have 0 times cosine here, and the cosine of 0 degrees is 1, so 1 times sine on this side. Obviously 0 times anything is 0. We're left with negative 1 times sine, which is negative sine. And another identity from your identity sheet, sine of pi over 2 minus x is equal to cosine of x. So starting with the sine of pi over 2 minus x, we're going to use that difference identity again. So sine cosine, so sine of the pi over 2 cosine of x, minus cosine sine, so cosine pi over 2 sine of x. Now when we move over to that pi over 2 angle, the sine of pi over 2 is 1, and it's the cosine that's equal to 0. Again, that second term will end up being 0, and 1 times cosine is cosine. So there's a couple examples of how we can use that difference identity to prove some of the other identities on our identity sheet.